good old time. Have a fun time with two bros. We're having a good time, never a bad time. Having a fun time, never a down time. Down on the BivBros Show.
I'm recording. Hey, brother.
Hey, brother, how art thou?
It's been a while. I'm good.
And it has been a while. Yes, I know. That is entirely my fault that it has been a while.
I wouldn't say it's your fault. You were doing cool stuff.
I was doing cool stuff. It's not that. Just.
But this is a new month.
A new month.
A new week.
New week.
And we're gonna start getting on a schedule, right?
We are. No, I'm here. I'm not going nowhere. No time. No place.
Never again.
Never again.
You ever seen Misery? The movie Misery?
Yes, I have.
That's why you won't be going anywhere. You know what I'm talking about.
I do. By the way, again, if you did not watch the second season of Castle Rock,
yeah,
it's awfully fun. It's awfully fun.
You know, we never got over that really, really sad episode in season 1. Which I've heard. Maybe you even told me later that what you think is happening is maybe not really happening. It's not as sad as it seems at the time, but it was so sad.
Oh,
and I don't want to spoil anything for people who haven't watched it, but it was so sad that I couldn't go on. I was like, no, I can't do this anymore. So it was too bad because we were kind of into it. And to the point where I was even like wondering if they were subtly or not so subtly with including Bill Skarsgård, if that, if he was somehow connected to Pennywise or not. I don't know. In the Stephen King multiverse, who knows? So I haven't seen any of that. We are caught up, however, on The Outsider.
Yes. The Outsider is it over? No, there's one more episode.
One more.
Yeah,
one more. Although I haven't read the book. Elise did, but she doesn't remember much about it. But we don't know if are they going to be able to wrap it up in the next episode, or is it going to spill over?
I know. Oh, I didn't know you were watching that. Yeah, we've enjoyed it. There's been like one clunkery-ish one, but in general, pretty darn strong.
Which one was the clunker?
I don't even remember now. I remember there was one that I was like, that doesn't seem cool. That doesn't seem like that makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
Totally normal for all television.
Yeah. And apropos for Stephen King.
And super apropos for Stephen King. But
Mr. King,
I have a question.
Speaking of kings,
yes.
Have you given Lock and Key a chance?
I have not.
I haven't either. It only got 66% or so on the Rotten Taters, so I haven't. That's not one I'm going to easily sell Elise on anyway.
Yeah.
Outsider kind of made it in number one because she had read it, which was unusual that she's read a Stephen King.
Very unusual.
And number two, it's more like it owes more to True Detective than anything else.
I would say.
So it's kept our interest, I think, because of that. Whereas Lock and Key is pretty fantastical. Did you ever read Lock and Key?
I didn't actually.
It's pretty fun.
Maybe one or two episodes. Yeah.
I think I don't know if he made it into a book or Joe Hill is the author of Lock and Key, by the way. Mm-hmm. And who was the artist? Rodriguez.
Ooh,
Mr.
Rodriguez.
What's their name? Here, got the book. Hang on. Gabriel Rodriguez. Anyway, I haven't delved into that part of the Kingverse yet either. See you later.
Bye.
Episode's over.
And scene. I went to Louisville, Kentucky. What's still one of my favorite cities in the world, and we had a wonderful week of this caption point stepping out was what I was calling it. We talked a little bit about this on the show. So if anybody's waiting for an update, it went really well. It was very inspiring. It was somewhat discouraging at times. It was really invigorating at times. And all in all, the experience was fantastic, and got a lot done. Met some interesting people. Definitely learned more about who I am as a person, who I am as a leader and founder of an organization, and what my better roles should and could be in said organization. I think it was a good few lessons to learn.
And top.
Well, that's the best thing about it. I also discovered that I am not alone. People want to help me.
Oh, great.
You do, Allison does, our friend Corinne came, and it was, I felt very supported. Lindsay, of course, is always my right-hand person. And
very quickly, for those of you who don't know what Caption Point is, go to captionpoint.com and you can find out. But in a heartbeat, it's live captioning. It's captioning for live theater and events.
Yes.
If you want to learn more about it, go to captionpoint.com. And SCTC also is the Southeastern Theater Conference.
Yes.
Where theaters, schools, student hopefuls all come together like any good con, and there's booths and auditions and all that kind of jazz, and so
Sessions.
Matt and the Caption Point gang, except for me, was there boothing. I don't know what they call it in SCTC parlance, but tabling for Caption Point, explaining to the masses why accessibility and captioning and accessibility in theater for live events is important.
Yes.
And I've said it to you in private. I'll say it in public, brother. I'm really proud of you.
Thank you.
Putting yourself out there is not easy, especially when the message is not an easy one to necessarily even get across to people,
right? But
even harder to get them to care.
Yes. Yes.
So I'm proud of you for the only way to start is to start.
Thank you.
And you did, and I'm sure you got lots of great feedback, and I totally understand coming home and feeling invigorated and discouraged and everything.
Yeah.
It's just it's an onslaught of experiences and
emotions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
You were definitely missed there. Our lovely employee friend, captioner Laura Kowalski was missed. She kind of held down the fort here in Chicago, captioning a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I saw.
Next time, though,
she was pretty busy. Yeah,
she was. Yeah, gone. I know. Thank God for her. I would have been in big trouble. But yeah, so next time, and I know what to do next time. I think it's just gonna be.
Yeah,
it's gonna be good. So that's where I was. It was a good reason to be gone, but we are back, and not only are we back, brother, but we are back with a new segment that we dreamed up.
Mm-hmm.
It's
What's
actually
it called?
It's called the BivBros TV Time Machine. TV Time Machine. You know what we're gonna have to do? Of course, we're gonna have to write.
Invent a time machine.
Well, number one, we invent a time machine. Number two, we need to write a theme song specifically for the segment. A little
BivBros
kicker.
TV time machine, going back in time and I hear a man scream, hear a hobo man scream. Wait a minute, can you say hobo man in 2020?
If hobo man means an evil presence that lives in the 23rd century?
Sure.
Yeah. Because you want him to scream, right? And you have a time machine?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
Man, I don't want him to scream. I want to watch him cry.
Right.
Just come on down and watch watch a hobo man cry. That's not going to be the time. That's not going to be the theme song
For
this.
sure
We'll
not. Yeah, we'll come up with a much better
fun and 0% hobo men.
Yes, I need to say that I've completely stealing this idea from a never released podcast that my friend Joe and I painstakingly recorded back in the
Joe Halberta.
Joe Halberta.
Oh,
He's
so handsome.
He's so handsome. Good grief.
I'm so jealous of his facial hair. He's got a really great
He's
beard.
just a handsome man, and he's only getting more handsome as years go by. So Joe Alberta and I used to have this really fun concept. We would watch a TV show from our youth and then get on and talk about it over the microphone. The problem was I didn't know anything about anything, and I didn't know how to edit or do recording better or any of that stuff. So all of this really.
What did you guys watch? Did you watch anything?
We did. We watched Mork and Mindy. We watched The Phoenix.
Oh, you watched The Phoenix? Wow.
I did, but I mean, we can probably, you and I probably can do that. The slant of that one was more.
Nobody remembers The Phoenix. Nobody knows what we're talking about right now. But go Google The Phoenix from a 1980s TV show, and you'll go, dear God.
Dear God is right. Yes.
But so you watched that. You watched Morgan Mindy. You watched some old favorites, and then the concept was, how did they hold up?
Right.
And probably the answer is typically not so great. Although I bet Morgan Mindy was pretty great. I mean, Robin Williams is.
Taxi was especially good.
Yeah, I never really watched a Taxi back in the day, but that had a ton of heavies on it. I mean, Danny DeVito. Andy Kaufman, Judd Hirsch, right?
Yes.
And then Carol Kane?
Yes, actually, yes. But that was the crux of that show was kind of different because we would pick shows that neither of us, that the other one hadn't grown up with. And we're a little bit different in age. Joe's a little
So you were
older.
Introducing, like Joe would say, here, watch the show that I loved growing up, and vice versa.
Yeah.
Whereas the concept for BivBros TV Time Machine is we're going back to watch the cartoons and shows that we loved as children.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So that I feel like that's enough of a spin that I'm not dishonoring Joe's.
Who had better taste between you and Joe?
Oh, Joe for sure.
I already know your taste. So
Taxi alone, and I think MASH was one of them. And even though I had kind of watched MASH.
No, I can't. I just associate MASH with our dad being super depressed, laying on the couch, watching a really depressing show. I mean, MASH is not easy. Or maybe it just seems more depressing to me because our dad struggles with depression.
Both.
So I just associate it with that. But no, I can't. To this day, I still have PTSD about MASH.
Wow.
I can't do it.
That's a good use of that.
Good use of my PTSD?
Yes.
I'll just keep it there. Keep it with MASH. No more PTSD just in any other area.
Yes. But so we're starting this sort of segment, and we're excited about it. This means that we'll have two segments. We'll have a Ask BivBros, and then we'll have this one, which is already fun because the time machine that we have entered today is to go revisit a show called Dungeons and Dragons.
Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah, we're going all the way back to September 17. Yeah, 1983.
1983, and
we watched the first episode, which was called
"The Night of No Tomorrow."
There you go.
The Night of No Tomorrow. I will start off by saying this: the idea. I have not thought about this television show at all, but you and I have been talking so much about Dungeons and Dragons, and you have been. Yeah,
we should lead in with that a little bit.
Yeah, you've been listening to this podcast, video, Twitch, Critical Role. You've been diving in, and it is so infectious that I bought the source rule books. I went ahead and did it.
You did
in digital
the DM
format.
Guide and
I did. I wanted to read it. I'm ready to play. I haven't. So my problem is that Critical Role is 3 hours, and I I don't necessarily have the attention span to even put it in the background. I can't really work with music or especially
you gotta do it when you're walking Mickey and Penny.
Yeah,
you're like when you're not really doing much.
Yeah.
And you're just, that's the best. That's when I do it the most.
Well, I try to do it as I'm going to sleep, but that's a problem because
you'll go to sleep instantly.
I go to sleep very quickly and I don't really know anything, and then it keeps going and going. So I wake up in the middle of the night, and someone's going, "Bruh, boss said to kill and murder." It's just really I'm like, oh god.
Right? Yeah. You wake up hours later, it's still going.
It's still going.
Yeah. I can only have it. It depends on what I'm working on. If I'm working on something strictly graphic, say a logo or something, then I can have it on in the background. But if I have to do something that involves writing, or even sometimes, like if I'm working on a website, it's a different part of my brain that's getting used.
Yeah.
And I can't focus on, I can't have it on in the background. I rarely listen to music in the background as I work, but depending on what I'm doing, I can have this on. So, I'll just have it going. And here's the other thing: if you find that you're just not into it, it's definitely not for everybody.
Sure.
It's certainly like I said before, it's lit my 13-year-old nerd on fire. And just rediscovering what is so beautiful about this game.
Yeah.
And for those of you who, I'm sure pretty much everyone knows what Dungeons and Dragons is, but I think where people, including myself, up until recently, kind of rediscovering it, the way I remembered it was, you're rolling a lot of dice. There's a lot of rules, all of that stuff. But that exists. Although the most current version, the 5th edition, is streamlined so well. Just to make gameplay more fluid and easy, and focus less on the mechanics of it. But none of that stuff is what makes the game cool. What makes the game cool is that it's a group of people who come together and are basically telling a story together. They're creating a story together through the help. The dungeon master knows, where you kind of need to go, but they don't have control over what you decide. So it's a collaborative thing. And that is what's really beautiful. And these nerds of the show, Critical Role, do it particularly well because Matt Mercer, their dungeon master, is masterful. Truly.
Yes.
In fact, I read this week that there is something called the Matt Mercer effect. So Critical Role is probably responsible for getting more people into Dungeons and Dragons and role-playing games than in an eon, right? Yes. Here's the downside. There's a lot of first-time players, or even people like me who haven't played in 30 years. And you get into the room, you get around the table with someone who's your dungeon master and your other teammates, and your expectation is that you're going to have an experience like you've seen on Critical Role, and that this dungeon master is going to be at the level or have a style similar to Matt Mercer, and he does a number of things that makes the experience extremely vivid and fun, right? Yes. Beyond just knowing the game very well, because he's been playing it for over 20 years, he's very, very descriptive in everything that happens. So say you roll a dice, it's you're attacking something, and you hit it, and then you roll your hit, how much damage you've done and all that stuff, and you tell him what's happened, and then he tells it back to you and the whole group and describes it in detail what is happening. Yes. And not all dungeon masters do that, but for a lot of first timers think that's what's going to happen or supposed to happen. And then they walk away feeling not as fulfilled. And that's the Matt Mercer effect. Wow. Which he's come out and said, like, that really bums him out that happens, and that, it encourages people to just, trust that their dungeon master is doing a great job and just have fun and don't worry about what they're doing. He's a master for sure.
He is. It's funny because like any art form, any performance art, his skill level as a dungeon master would be, like Miles Davis on trumpet or something, right? So, or even better, some of the better improvisers in the universe, right? Like, where you go and you say, oh wow, that's actually how you do it, and then you take improv for a year, 2 years, and you join a little bar prov group, and you're so bad that it physically hurts you while you're on stage because you're so bad. It's probably a lot like that, but unlike improv, which is also fun, and D&D is it is something that you could do, and it is purely for the utter joy of it, and it doesn't matter if you're bad, right?
I didn't tell you that I started rereading the Dragonlance Chronicles.
What? Where did you get them?
On the Apple Books.
Oh yeah.
Place.
Nice.
Dragonlance, for those of you who don't know what that is, which is everybody, was a series of actually very, very popular books in the 80s, and a companion set of what are called modules. And what that means is if you go to when you're playing Dungeons and Dragons and you're the dungeon master, you've got really one of two options. You can go to the nerd store and get what is called a module, and it tells you everything about the adventure that you can lead your players through. Yes. Or you can create what is now known as, not back in the day, but now known as homebrew, right? Which I think is pretty funny. Which means you just write your own module, right? Yeah. So, but Dragonlance was scripted, and you can mash it up. You don't have to play the characters that they offer, who are the main characters in the books, but you can play them as well. But the books, Matt and I loved the books, and we played the modules. I don't think I played actually one of the main characters. I think I had a different character.
I think we did. I think for some reason we chose not to play any of the actual.
And that was probably smart, actually, looking back. So anyway, but the book is surprisingly still good. It's not particularly original, and at times not, the best written book ever. It's not Tolkien at all. And I've never read George R. R. Martin, who I know is celebrated as not just he's a beautiful writer as opposed, his language is beautiful. So it's not like that. It's written for kids. Anyway, that's an aside. So we may not play Dragonlance, but we might find a module, or who knows? Maybe we'll get brave enough to do a little homebrew. But I think the important thing is to start small.
Yes, for sure. And my starting small was to get these books and to just sort of see what is next. And we have so we will report. We'll report back on that. But
that'll be another episode or another what do you call it? Segment that we'll do. BivBros play D&D. Yes. Anyway, that's a long-winded lead-in to the 1980s cartoon, Saturday morning cartoon, I guess it was, called Dungeons and Dragons. And
I found so much information about this.
Oh yeah.
So many interesting things.
I'd forgotten a lot. I knew that Matt and I were definitely the nerds who had we had action figures. We had G.I. Joe, He-Man, and then more obscure ones. There was like insect ones. What were those called? They were actually very cool. We should put that on the list because there was a cartoon for that too. They had very cool toys. Transformers to a lesser degree. We had some, and GoBots, stuff like that. And we had the Dungeons and Dragons action figures.
We did. Did we?
And oh definitely. But the funny thing is, the main characters of this series, they never made into toys.
Well, that's not actually true. They did make them into toys. I took a look at them, and they don't look familiar to me at all.
What?
Yeah.
Send me a link to one.
Okay.
Because I looked this up yesterday, and they said that they never made the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 main characters. Well, we should set up the show.
Yeah.
Before we get all into this. Do you want to do it? Or do you want me to do it?
Sure. Setting up the show. So this fascinating TV a TV show that you can actually watch the entirety of on YouTube. It lasted for 3 seasons, Dungeons and Dragons. It ironically it came out both at sort of, I guess, the game's high point of popularity, but also at the same time the whole satanic panic was happening. So that kind of influenced some things in the show.
Oh, and really?
Yeah. So it's we watched the first episode, and it's really interesting. It's like I immediately have no idea how it's related to Dungeons and Dragons. It barely seems to follow any kind of rule or regulation or understanding or an existing world that I knew of or anything. Yeah. It's very, very similar to a lot of the TV shows. It has sort of an anime feel, which makes sense because it was sort drawn.
Of. Yeah, I wouldn't say vaguely. Anime. I'd say. Well, I have a strong opinion on that. We can get that.
Sure.
Get to that in a minute. The crux of the show is that there's 6 American kids who are on some funhouse ride, kind of like Tunnel of Love type of thing, except they go into a dragon's mouth where they're magically transported to the world of Dungeons and Dragons. I don't even know where they are. Yeah,
they mentioned a couple. Yeah, I don't know what world they are either. Yeah.
Yeah, they mentioned the name. They're transported to the. I'm on the wiki right now. Okay. They're transported to the quote realm of Dungeons and Dragons. By taking a magical dark ride on an amusement park roller coaster. And then they meet a little gnomish guy who calls himself the Dungeon Master, which is basically the only connection to D&D at all. I mean, everything else is, just whatever. So anyway, these kids are transported to this realm, and they they become these archetypes. One's a wizard, one's a thief, one's a barbarian, one's a cavalier. One's a ranger, and then what's her name? Diana. She's the acrobat, which is not even a thing in Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
Anyway, I know, so silly. So that's the setup. That's what the show is about.
Oh, I see. Yes. That's what it is, and it was half an hour. It was for kids for sure. It had very, very broad caricatures and of all the archetypes. They were voiced by very interesting people. For example, Eric the Cavalier. He sort of plays a sort of little rich kid, was played by Don Most, who is best known for his role as Ralph Malph on Happy Days. Then
oh wow.
Yeah, I know. Presto the Magician was on 8 is Enough, grown up a little bit.
Really?
Yeah, I know. And then so there's all these characters who for some reason get on a carnival ride called Dungeons and Dragons. and they're transported into this world, and when they get out, somehow they've picked up this magical unicorn, like a little baby unicorn named Uni. That was voiced.
Oh God.
That was voiced by Frank Welker, who was best known for his work on Scooby-Doo. He was Scooby-Doo.
Oh wow.
Yep.
Hank the Ranger, the Aryan, the blonde-haired white dude, leader of the group, is Willie Ames, who was also on 8 is Enough.
Right. I saw that too. Yeah.
Okay. So, and of course, to me, the name that stood out, and the voice that I immediately recognized was the voice of the villain, Venger.
Yes.
Peter Cullen. Was Peter Cullen, most famously known as Optimus Prime. And honestly, that's a thing for me, because I can't hear Peter Cullen's voice without thinking of Optimus Prime, and to put him in the role of a villain when he sounds like Optimus Prime, it's like, it's not working.
Yeah,
it's not working for me.
I know.
Anyway, but whatever. He's putting food on the table. He doesn't care.
God bless him.
Yeah. Anyways, so that's the setup.
That's the setup.
I guess we got to get to what we thought about it.
Yeah, it sounds like you didn't. I was extremely forgiving of this show. Just because of the pure, nostalgia of it. I'm not saying that it's particularly good. The animation was far better than I remembered it to be. And it's such as 80s style. It's multiple repetitive frames, the reuse of frames and little things and jerky.
Yeah.
Low
budget.
It really actually it was actually animated by a Japanese company.
Was it really?
Yeah, which I just saw that. And the writing again, super, the little kid who has all this power, but he's very nervous and he has a low self-esteem. And then the even younger kid who's not afraid of anything, but he's always getting into trouble. And then like you said, the Aryan, the blonde white dude who's like, I'm the leader. And then two women who, and we only watched the first episode, so I don't know where that's going. But one is kind of scantily clad, which I was kind of surprised at. But at least there is a diversity
which
there.
They both were.
Well, yeah, I guess you're right. But especially Diana the acrobat. She's basically wearing a bikini, like a fur bikini.
Yeah.
She's an acrobat. Why would she have to do that? And then the other one, Sheila. It's a little strange because, this show is definitely for kids. There's no no bones about it. And anyway, that's just probably superheroes also were really big, and so they do kind of have this superhero-esque, costuming as well, capes. I guess that makes sense.
Yeah,
but all the men are super.
Is a tough
clothed.
Concept to, in a way. It's D&D in its essence is kind of swords and sorcery, but how do you do that for kids who are watching Super Friends and Scooby-Doo and that kind of thing? I'll tell you what it felt like to me was it felt like a big-time money grab. Mm-hmm. Like they saw D&D or TSR, the company that owned Dungeons & Dragons at the time, saw He-Man and said, oh, snap. High fantasy is a hit. So, and guess who's been doing that since the 70s? Right. Us. So let's cash in on that action. And then I looked it up and I saw that this series actually aired like a week before the first episode of He-Man.
Really?
But He-Man toys came out in '82. Okay. The first He-Man action figures premiered in '82. Which have you ever watched The Toys That Made Us?
I still haven't. I know it's amazing.
God. Oh, it's so fascinating. The He-Man one is one of my favorites. Yeah. And the part about creating the He-Man show is particularly amazing. Very briefly, the creators of He-Man, they did that. Pretty much everyone was making action figures at the time because Star Wars blew up huge. Mm-hmm. And everybody go and do yourself a favor and watch all of those episodes because it's a miracle that Star Wars worked. It's a miracle that all of them worked. They were just hanging on by the seat of their pants. Yeah. But anyway, He-Man, they had all these awesome designs. It was really cool. But, unlike Star Wars, which had movies and stories that kids, went to go see and they wanted to, own it, nobody knew who He-Man was or why they should care. So they decided to do something really cool. And I remember getting this as a kid. They included a comic book in with the action figure, a little miniature comic book in with the figure. So you could read that and read a story about him, and then that was awesome. But when they pitched that to the suits at the company at Mattel, they were like, guess what? Most kids this age don't read. So they're like, oh, and like in the meeting, the guy who was pitching it, I don't remember his name now, had the balls to say, oh yeah, but we're doing a cartoon too. And they weren't doing a cartoon.
Right.
But, but they did. They found a company, I think it was DIC maybe, and they went and just said, "Yo, can you make us a He-Man cartoon
like next week?"
And yeah, and they did, and that was why it became massively massive. So this just smacked to me of, okay, He-Man's a hit. We got this covered. And it's just it felt very rushed. It's super low budget. It's badly written. It doesn't have anything to do with what makes Dungeons and Dragons the game cool really at all, or just anything to do with D&D
period
at all. Period.
No, I'm with you. It really doesn't. They don't even try. I mean, they have Tiamat the dragon, which. Sure. Yeah,
for no reason.
I mean,
it just kind of lumbers on like, "Hey, I'm gonna mess you up. Oh, I fell down a hole."
Yes.
Oh no, I'm a dragon. Why can't I fly?
With so many heads. Yeah, for sure. It is all of those things. But I do really find it interesting that this came about, and I'm assuming that it came out because of partly of the Satanic Panic, just sort of to soften the concept. One of the producers was Marvel. Whatever Marvel's original sort of TV thing was. But
Marvel Productions, right?
I'm guessing that it did sort of have something to do with this fear and try to soften that. But it apparently sort of bit them in the end a little bit, because there were some scripts that we didn't get to after, but there were some scripts that were extremely violent for the age, for both the age of the kids and the era in which they were doing it. And there was a good bit of controversy because these topics, at one point the kids have to decide whether they're going to kill Venger or not, the big bad or not. And they just, it wasn't that kind of stuff.
Someone's like, you can't kill anything.
Right.
You got to rewrite this episode.
Yes. Yeah. So they said, I think they allowed them to do it, but then they forced there was a coalition on television violence, and probably behind all the the Satanic Panic stuff, but they demanded the FTC run a warning during each broadcast that said Dungeons and Dragons had been linked to real life violent deaths. Yes, I mean.
Okay, so I'm reading the controversy part on the wiki now. Yeah. The level of violence was controversial for American children's television at the time. The script, one episode, The Dragon's Graveyard, was almost shelved because the characters contemplated killing their nemesis, Venger. Warning.
Yeah, so they had to put a warning.
Violent. That is, God. Yeah, that is so insane. Satanic Panic. We should probably do an episode on Satanic Panic.
Yeah.
How weird that was.
That's really weird. That is so fascinating and so.
I'm kind of wondering why we're not living in an age of Satanic Panic now.
Right now, yeah.
Doesn't it feel like we ought to be? With all just how upside down the world feels.
Yes.
Should we just throw in a little Satanic Panic, a neo Satan Panic?
Yeah.
Well, I guess the real litmus test for anything that we go back and watch is, do you want to watch the second episode? And for me, the answer is definitely hell no.
Definitely no. I'm a little curious about the more violent episodes, so I may actually go through the wiki.
I mean, are those available?
Oh yeah, every single episode is available on YouTube. Every single one, the entire series. Not only that, but
what if we turned it on and they were just there was a body on the ground and all of 6 of the kids were just and they've just got blood all over their mouths, and that's the whole episode.
And we were like, wow, it just didn't seem very violent from the first episode. We were like, what?
I mean, that's the thing is, compared to today's TV and internet and everything else, however violent it must have been at the time, has got to be so tame.
Of course,
right?
of course. Yeah, I'm just saying, you have a show. It just jumps into this random world. You have no idea who these kids are, why they are, what they're doing. Like, it has nothing to do with Dungeons and Dragons that you could see. It's just like cartoony goodness that you it's just something that's on while you're gorging on Fruit Loops, and we totally bought it. We bought into that.
Yeah.
And hook, line, and sinker. So I feel like I totally respect the fact that you wouldn't go on. I may watch some of the more controversial episodes just because I'm curious. I'm just kind of curious to see what happens.
Were we playing D&D by 83? Or is this how we discovered?
I think
D&D?
we were. Well, gosh. That would make us, we
were definitely young.
I was only 11 then.
It just seems like it's a complicated game. We were young to be playing it, I think, just in understanding it, but it just didn't seem like we were that young. Right.
Well,
maybe we were.
It's a good point. 11, 12. I was a very advanced reader, but I don't know whether I would be that advanced. But I know that we did start with the board game called Dungeon first, so maybe
that was probably the real gateway drug.
That was definitely the gateway drug for me. Yeah, I bet it was that 1-2 punch. I bet we played Dungeon. And then we saw that TV show. Oh, that's related in some way. And then the books. I guess. Yeah. I will do some research into my own history. I guess that will involve, we'll probably have to see what Mom thinks. See like when, maybe she never knew we were playing Dungeons and Dragons. I'm sure she did. She didn't seem too panicked about it.
Satanic panicked.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, maybe I'll see if they disembowel someone in one of the violent episodes.
I'll let you know if they do. I'll let you know.
Okay, great. If they do, I definitely want to watch that.
You're in.
Yeah. I guess we need a rating system for this.
Sure. How could we come up with a rating system for the BivBros TV Time Machine rating system?
Yeah, TV Time Machine. I guess we'll have to think about that and implement it in the next.
Okay. Yeah.
Next edition. We didn't come prepared. Oh
no.
Time Machine broke in the past.
Time Machine left us off wondering, curious, shaken.
What was it? The sectors. That's what they were. The insect. Yeah. We can just go down to 80s cartoon and toy. Those toys were cool, man. Look at check them out now. They look neat.
So you know what? I'm looking at. There's some toy sets. There were 2 sets of toy figures produced featuring the principal cast of the cartoon. One 9-figure set produced in Spain, and one 8-figure set produced in Portugal.
Wow.
So they killed off one character in the time.
Wait, send me that link.
Oh God, they're very, very, very funny looking. Oh my.
Well, yeah. So apparently there are the main action figures of that connected to the cartoon were only kind of did guest appearances. They had an episode or so that they would guest in, and we had those toys for sure. There was like a paladin and I think some dude I saw yesterday. His name was War Duke or something. So I remember having those toys, and they weren't that great. They were kind of sucked.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. It was all about the action figure. That's for damn sure.
Oh yeah, there they are. Ooh.
Yikes.
They look like toys that you would get in a Burger King Happy Meal.
I would say somewhere between that and sort of a centro like a fair in the like a big mercado in the middle of a
yeah.
no,
Wait
I
a
mean
minute.
like
okay, a number of
hand
tie-in
created.
books were released. So and we had these, the Dungeon of Dread and the Mountain of Mirrors. I read those.
We sure did. I didn't know that they were tie-ins.
I didn't either.
Man,
The art of those books are so cool.
I tell you what, it's so interesting what your brain holds on to and what it doesn't hold on to. I'm really going to enjoy this time machine because seeing those two books, I can actually they had a very cool cover texture. They had like a very interesting, almost like I want to say seersucker, but that's not correct. Like slightly tacky sort of cover on those Dungeons and Dragons Endless Quest books. Pick a path. I can feel it right now just looking at those books.
Wow.
I wish I had them right now. They were only $2 back then. Oh.
I know. Now you can buy one for probably $100.
It's probably true.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Oh man, you guys have come down a deep rabbit hole with us today.
And we appreciate every.
And the thing is, if anyone is our age, then you may know what we're talking about. This you may have experienced this too.
Yeah.
But if you're anywhere younger than us, or if you're less nerdy than we are and were, then you also probably don't know what on earth we are talking about. And so you probably stopped listening a while ago. That's okay.
The interesting thing about that is that this was not cool. This was not like when I used to say D&D, that we played D&D. No one knew what we were talking about. No, I mean, number one, we didn't have friends, but number two, we didn't really know that many people that did play. And when you told
someone about D&D, turns out that you were just talking to your imaginary friend.
My imaginary friend Chucky. But a different Chucky.
Sorry, didn't mean to derail you. So yes, nobody knew what D&D was.
Nobody knew.
We weren't, of course, we were not cool.
Right. Yeah, and it's but the level of like involvement that we were into this stuff. It's just that is so popular right now. That kind of nerd is so popular. They're seconds away from a search on YouTube. You get into their worlds. You love them. They're making however much the cast of Critical Role makes. It's a job now, and it's so interesting that was just.
Oh, it's unimaginable.
Yeah.
I mean, not even a reason to imagine it.
Right.
Right. Yeah, definitely. It's geek culture, of course, has been out and proud for a while.
Yeah.
But going and like discovering Critical Role, I realize, I'm not a Reddit person.
Right.
I'm nerdy, but I'm there's people who can very rightfully claim to be far nerdier than me. Yeah. And so I've never really been on the inside in that sense. And I've certainly witnessed it, firsthand, like going to Dragon Con and stuff. I mean, you are immersed in people who are into their deepest level of niche nerd and geek as far as they can go. And it's beautiful. It's really beautiful. But I didn't realize that not only how much of it was really out there, but that it was also humongously popular.
Yeah.
That it just never even crossed my mind. Oh yeah, you could turn playing a game, where you're just telling a story. I mean, people play games for money all the time. I mean, StarCraft or Fortnite or sports, right?
Yeah.
And so I suppose it kind of tracks in one way, but it just never, like, you're just sitting around a table rolling dice. How can that be your job? But well, if you do it well enough, I guess it can be.
And we do have to take some credit for paving the way. Our generation of nerd. Our generation of nerd. I mean, we got beat up for it. I did. We got beat up for loving these things.
Made this possible.
We did. We took the licks, and now that would not happen. Nerds don't get beaten up anymore. And I did feel like I had to hide that element of myself when it was proven to me that it was really unpopular, and I wasn't going to gain any favor by doing that, and people are going to try. I feel like in general I was pretty true to myself my whole life. I felt like I've always kind of tried to be, but certainly there were moments when I was grappling with all of that I was like, okay, well, I guess I really shouldn't at least not talk about Dungeons and Dragons and not talk about these things that I love. But now I don't think that's a problem, and I love that, and I'm happy for that. I'm glad that I was there to take the beatings.
When did you and I stop playing D&D?
Gosh.
Because when we stopped, you kind of stopped. You never really played D&D outside of just you and me playing.
Not really, no.
And you know this, but for anyone listening, they don't. I used to play D&D. I played probably the most D&D with friends who were my age. Maybe it was around the same time that you were getting older and had older friends, and we were just hanging out less.
Yeah.
And then I started playing D&D with friends who were my age, my good friend Todd and his brother Scott, and our friend Darren. And Todd was an early home brewer. He wrote everything that we played. Wow. And it was so much fun. He was great. He was a great dungeon master and a really great writer. But yeah, so that's so funny that I'm kind of sad that you didn't have your own experience outside of just you and me.
Yeah.
Boring. Someone is listening to our podcast right now as they're trying to go to sleep, and they were asleep 45 minutes ago. You know what, though? I'm not going to apologize for this. If you are out there and you are like us and you are interested, let us know, because you and I don't have to play alone, brother.
We don't have to. No, we don't have to.
I will even put out this challenge. If you're out there and you think that you are, and you're a dungeon master, or game master, as it's popular to say now,
yes.
And you're really excited about it, and you're like, hey, I would love to be you guys. I'd like to DM a campaign with you guys. Yep. Let us know,
please.
Matt has never been a player. He's only been a DM. So I just think you would enjoy it a lot.
I would love that.
So anyway, let us know.
Yes.
And then maybe we can have fun together.
That would be really fun.
Because who doesn't like fun?
And that's a perfect way to end this episode, which I think went really, really well, brother.
I'm going to be the acrobat. Why is there always, in 80s cartoons, why does there always have to be some friggin' unicorn, like that, like some kind of scrappy-doo, orco, yeah, some piece of crap.
Always make these weird sounds.
Yeah,
it's always like middling English. Like not English. It's like
it's kind of like it's a little bit like Sims language.
It is. It is.
So yeah, let us know what you think.
Yeah.
Look forward in the next couple of weeks. We'll probably do another Ask the BivBros thing and another TV Time Machine. Sectars, G.I. Joes, of course, are definitely on my list.
Oh, for sure. He-Man. Yep.
He-Man for sure. Yeah. Go ahead and prep the He-Man with the toys that made us.
Okay.
That will enrich your experience. And I don't know until next.
Then. Sure, you love you.
Yeah. I love you too, brother.
I'll talk to you soon.
You
can be like,
come on in and have a good old time.